I am not immune to nostalgia. When I was younger, I didn't have a ton of access to the internet or fandoms, so when I became obsessed with a show that I wanted more content of, I would have to make up my own stories and characters all on my own. And this mainly involved me making self-inserts so that I could be best friends with all of my favorite characters. Over the past year or so, I've been remaking different self-inserts, but today I wanted to redesign some of the ones I haven't touched in ages. I want to keep the same vibes about them with some obvious changes, but overall not too different of an idea. Let's get into it. First, we're going to start off with possibly the most embarrassing of the three, Shrek the Musical. The story goes is that I was a sad middle schooler who really wanted to get into musicals, but the only musical on Netflix Kids, the only way I could really watch TV, was Shrek the Musical. And I watched it 5 times in one weekend and listened to all of the songs on loops and even made a self-insert. While they weren't openly a self-insert, they basically only existed so that I could be best friends with Pinocchio, who is my favorite character in the musical, so they count and I'll be remaking them in this video. As I was deciding how to update this character, I realized that they originally weren't based on any fairy tale characters, like all of the other main Shrek characters. My first idea was to do Peter Pan, but he already existed, so I decided to make him one of the Lost Boys. I thought that a parallel between someone who's a boy forever and someone who wants to be a real boy more than anything would be really interesting, and plus, it meant I got to draw the guy in a little animal costume, which I thought would be kind of cute. There was one change that I made though, and I want to address it. The original version of this character had a wooden leg from the knee down, and I'm not quite sure why. I think it was supposed to make a connection between Pinocchio and my character. I considered leaving it in this design, but as an able-bodied person, I wouldn't feel comfortable calling this my self-insert if I made them disabled. There are many disabled people in the art world though, so I'll have some links to some disabled artists in the description, so be sure to check them out. Thank you. Now, as I was coming up with the outfit, I knew that I wanted to do an animal costume, and of course I chose to do a cat. I wanted this character to be aged a little older than the regular Lost Boys, being more around their late teens, so I didn't just settle for a classic onesie like the normal Lost Boys from the Peter Pan movie. The cropped hoodie was a lot of fun, and I liked the idea of the tie-on tail. As a throwback to the silhouette from the original design, I made one of the boots tall and one short, and oh man, I really liked this idea. It was adorable. In real life, I wear a lot of bracelets, and I decided that this character should be representative of that. I also recently dyed an orange streak in my hair, and I also added that to this design. For the drawing itself, you can see how much I struggled with the pose. It was just so hard to figure out how to pose the arms. I decided this character's color scheme should be orange, and I went all out with that. I decided to render these pieces, which was a lot of fun. It's a process I've been starting to do lately, and it's been really fun to try out, and I think it's really elevated my art. I also decided to add a little guy to show off the outfit and the colors in the corner, and he turned out really cute. It's definitely one of my favorite parts of the piece. I wanted him to be a little mischievous and a little goofy, and I hope that's shown off in this pose. I imagine he spends most of his time hanging out with Pinocchio after they meet in Shrek's swamp. He probably helps Pinocchio come out of his shell a little bit, sympathizing with his worries. Maybe he's trans to spice up the whole real boy discussions. And yes, I still like Pinocchio a lot, and yes, my self-insert is still based around being his friend. And this is my Shrek the Musical self-insert, and that distinction is important. It is not just a Shrek OC, it is a Shrek the Musical OC. Next up, we have one of the oldest fandoms that I've been a part of, Wild Kratts. I don't think my self-insert had a specific design. They were more of the character that I would be when I was playing with my friends. All I remember is that they were purple themed and had a pet caracal cat. I remember really liking the caracal episode and maybe game. I don't know if it was also a game. And I would always insert myself into that episode. I was usually the younger sibling or cousin of the Kratts brothers, but I didn't adventure with them much. I mostly played badminton with my caracal pet. For the updated design, I really wanted to keep the caracal and badminton theme. Maybe in this universe I'm not as bad at badminton, I don't know. I would have left their creature power suit color as purple, but as it turns out that's Aviva's color, which was revealed in later seasons. And I also couldn't do orange because Coco is a yellow-orange color, and plus I did orange for my Shrek the Musical insert, and I don't want all of 3 of these characters to have the exact same color schemes. I chose to go with pink for the creature power suit and have references to the purple in the clothes. Most of the Wild Kratts characters, especially the brothers, were very athletic clothing, but since I didn't see this character as much of a creature adventurer, I decided to go with a more casual outfit, like that of the crew. It's also an outfit that I would totally wear in real life, which is kind of the point of a self-insert, right? When I was deciding on the pose, I just knew I had to include the caracal friend from my original concept. I also decided to include the badminton racket in Birdie, and the pose was pretty easy to figure out from there. The caracal was a little hard to draw and render though. I don't have very much practice drawing them. I mentioned a few times, but I think he would be a member of the Tortuga crew rather than out in the wild. He would run the social media or other marketing of the team. The wild Kratts probably need a marketing manager. Or maybe he just helps document their research. That's probably the only time he wanders very hard from the ship, when he's trying to get footage for B-roll. I also think it would be cute if he did his own vlog series from time to time. He loves nature, but he prefers to interact with it through recordings rather than being out in the wild all of the time. And here's my Wild Kratts self-insert. This was a very comforting show for me, so it's nice to be able to create something that can show how much I loved it. And my last self-insert is another series that I really enjoyed in late elementary and middle school. Ninjago. When I was getting into Ninjago was around the same time that I was learning about fandoms, and I remember seeing some really cool fanfics on the LEGO social media platform and basically being like, oh man, I need to do that. So I made a self-insert, and I had a rough storyline to follow them through their journey. I can't remember much of it now, other than it mostly revolved around them being friends with Jay and Zane, my favorite characters. I also played one of the mobile games, and I remember editing a screenshot from the game to be my character. Because I couldn't choose an original color scheme, I went with white. Their elemental power was stars, which I'll explain a little more later. They probably had the most fleshed out idea of the three that I'm redesigning today, I just don't remember it very much. When I was thinking of how to update this character, I was mostly thinking about ways to implement them more into the world of Ninjago. I based their gi around the elemental kimono because I remember that being their outfit in the game, and is also the most standardized outfit to pick from. I don't remember them having a specific weapon, so I decided they should have one that's different from the rest of the cast. No one in the main cast, uses Sai, so I decided to give those to him. Plus, I have Sai at home that I really need to learn how to use, so it makes him an even better self-insert. Color is a very important part of the Ninjago universe, so I spent a lot of time thinking of what color to use in his outfit. In these designs, I'd already done orange and pink, and the last color that I used predominantly to represent myself is a teal or mint green, so I decided on that. I was very careful though that the design differed from Lloyd, since he's the green ninja, and I think I did an okay job. I had the easiest time coming up with a pose for this piece, mainly because I knew what I wanted it to be when I first decided to remake this OC. This pose is a remake of that screenshot that I mentioned earlier. I remember waiting and waiting for the perfect moment when the model's hand would be fully reached up and their elemental power would be appearing in their hand so that I could edit it to be the character I had in mind. I mentioned earlier that their elemental power was stars, but in reality it was just light powers. I think I didn't want to call their element light because a lot of other Ninjago OCs used light, so I called it stars and went on with my day. They were able to summon light in their hands, and I even remember toying with the idea that when they were using the height of their power, the stars would spin in the sky. I still really like both of those ideas, but I want it to be a little bit more actually star themed. He can still summon light, but only very small points of light that he can use very shortly. It isn't a very offensive power, so I imagine he just kind of like blinds his enemies for a moment before beating them up with Spinjitzu or his Sai. He could also use it to communicate with the other ninja or to light up a dark room. When he reaches his full potential though, he can light up his whole body, essentially turning himself into a star and making himself bright and very hot to those around him. To those around him, when he's using this power, the stars in the sky will appear to be spinning around the point where he is. This is exhausting, however, so he doesn't use this ability very often. I think that he would be a person that the ninja can count on for help when they need it, but he isn't like a permanent member of the team. Instead, they would call him if they need his help on a mission or his expertise on something. He, mostly because I am, is fascinated by the Serpentine and spends most of his time learning about them and spending time with them. He hopes to fully help them assimilate into Ninjago society as a whole one day. And that's my Ninjago self-insert. Ninjago is a series that I still love very much, so it was nice to be able to revisit this world for a little bit. And that's all of the designs for this video complete. I'm very proud of how each of these turned out, and I think it would make younger me so happy that I was able to recreate these characters that they loved so much. Thank you for joining me down this trip down memory lane, and I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments what you think about these designs, and what childhood shows you made OCs for when you were little. Please be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. If you're interested in seeing some of the content that comes in between my videos, you can follow me on Instagram, which will be in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day or night. Bye!